What if I told you that in 1970, you could walk into a dealership and buy a car that would destroy most supercars today for the price of a Honda Civic? I'm about to reveal the 10 most insane muscle cars that Detroit built before the government killed the party forever. And number one will absolutely shock you because it's not what you think. But first, smash that subscribe button because 97% of you watching aren't subscribed. And I'm about to drop some knowledge that will change how you see classic cars forever. Here's what's absolutely crazy. These weren't million-dollar hypercars. These were regular production vehicles that your neighbor could buy off the lot. But here's the kicker that nobody talks about. The manufacturers were lying about the horsepower numbers. They were actually making way more power than they claimed, and I'm going to prove it to you with cold, hard facts that will make you question everything you know about the muscle car era. We're counting down from 10 to 1, and I guarantee you'll be picking your jaw up off the floor by the end. Plus, I've got some controversial takes that are going to ruffle some feathers in the comments. Starting at number 10, we have the car that nobody saw coming, the 1970 Ford Torino Cobra. Now, before you Ford fanboys start typing angry comments, hear me out. This thing ran a 13.99 quarter mile, and here's why that's absolutely insane. It looked like your grandma's grocery getter. Ford was playing 4D chess while everyone else was playing checkers. They stuffed a 429 cubic inch monster under the hood of what looked like a family sedan. But here's where it gets spicy. Motor Trend named this car of the year over the legendary Chevelle SS. Can you believe that? The audacity. And you know what? They were right, and I'll tell you why. The Cobra Jet made 360 horsepower, but the Super Cobra Jet? Well, let's just say Ford was being very modest with their numbers, but that's nothing compared to what's coming at number 3. Number 9 is going to make some people mad. The 1971 Ford Mustang Boss 351. Now I can already hear the keyboard warriors typing, but what about the Boss 429? Hold your horses, literally. This bad boy ran 13.8 seconds. And here's the shocking truth. It was actually faster than most Boss 429s in real-world testing. Why? Because Ford built this thing to be a weapon, not a show pony. They gave it 4 valve heads. That's right, 4 valves per cylinder in 1971. Your modern car probably doesn't even have that. Plus, they cranked the compression to 11.7 to 1, which is absolutely bonkers for a street car. But here's what breaks my heart. This was the last true Boss Mustang before emissions killed the dream. Ford knew the party was ending, so they went out with a bang. But if you think Ford was crazy, wait until you see what Chevrolet did with their Corvette. Number 8 is the car that makes grown men cry, the 1971 Corvette 454 LS6. And when I tell you how rare this thing is, you're going to understand why they sell for more than most people's houses. Only 188 were ever made. That's it. You're more likely to spot a unicorn than one of these on the road. But car and driver got their hands on one and ran 13.72 seconds bone stock. But here's where it gets controversial. They didn't stop there. They modded it and ran 12.64 seconds at 114 miles per hour. Some purists are probably having a heart attack right now, but that's what these cars were built for. This was Chevrolet's last hurrah before the dark ages. They knew the LS6 was going away forever, so they made it count. Every single one of these 188 cars is a piece of American history that we'll never see again. But if you think 188 cars is rare, wait until you hear about number 4. Number 7 is where things get spicy. The 1970 Dodge Challenger RT 446 pack. And yes, that's 6 barrels of pure American fury. 13.62 seconds and 490 pound-feet of torque. But here's the insane part. This was the budget option. Dodge was basically saying, hey, you can't afford the Hemi. Here, take this monster instead. Now, Hemi fanboys are going to hate me for this, but the 6-pack was actually more streetable than the Hemi. There, I said it. The Hemi was temperamental, but this thing, it was a daily drivable beast. And get this, They built 1,646 pack Challengers, but only 287 Hemis. So which one is really more special? The numbers don't lie. But speaking of numbers that don't lie, wait until you see what Plymouth did to make NASCAR drivers come crawling back. Number 6 is the car that looks like it came from outer space. The 1970 Plymouth Superbird. And the story behind this thing is absolutely wild. Plymouth built this alien-looking machine for one reason: to get Richard Petty back from Ford. They literally said, "We'll build the most ridiculous-looking car ever if you come back." And it worked. But here's the shocking truth that nobody talks about. The Superbird was actually slower than the Dodge Charger Daytona it was based on. Plymouth's designers cared more about looks than aerodynamics, and it cost them 1 to 3 miles per hour. 13.5 seconds with that massive wing creating drag. Imagine what it could have done without it. But you know what? Sometimes being iconic is more important than being perfect. But if you think a 23-inch tall wing is crazy, wait until you see the sleeper that nobody expected. Number 5 is going to shock you because it's not what you expect. The 1970 Buick GS455 stage. Yes, Buick, your grandfather's luxury brand, built a monster. 13.38 seconds, and Motor Trend called it the quickest American production muscle car for 1970. Not Chevrolet, not Dodge, not Ford, Buick. But here's the dirty secret. Buick was lying about the horsepower. They claimed 360, but this thing was making 400-plus horsepower easy. They were sandbagging to keep the insurance companies happy. This was the gentleman's muscle car. It would destroy you at the drag strip, then drive you home in air-conditioned comfort. It was brutal performance wrapped in a tuxedo. But if you think Buick was keeping secrets, wait until you hear what Plymouth was hiding with their cartoon character. Number 4 is the car that fooled everyone. The 1970 Plymouth Roadrunner 426 Hemi. They slapped a cartoon character on it, and people thought it was a joke. 13.34 seconds of pure violence. But here's what's absolutely insane. They sold over 80,000 of these in 1969 alone. This wasn't some limited edition trailer queen. This was mass production mayhem. The horn went beep beep like the cartoon, but the engine went roar like a dragon. Plymouth was playing mind games. Make it look friendly, then destroy everything on the road. And that 425 horsepower rating? Complete lies. These Hemis were making 500-plus horsepower all day long. The insurance companies would have had a heart attack if they knew the truth. But if you think the Roadrunner was deceptive, wait until you see what Chevrolet did with their most legendary muscle car. Number 3 is the car that everyone knows, the 1970 Chevrolet Chevelle SS454 LS6. But I'm about to tell you something about this car that will blow your mind. 13.12 seconds. But here's the crazy part. Different magazines got different times. Hot Rod got 13.44, Carcraft got 13.12. Why? Gearing and traction. This proves that these cars were so powerful that they were limited by physics, not horsepower. The LS6 was making 450 horsepower officially, but dyno tests showed it was closer to 500. This is the car that defined the muscle car era. When people think muscle car, they picture this. It had the looks, the sound, the performance. It was perfection in sheet metal. But if you think the Chevelle was the king, you're about to have your world rocked. The top 2 are going to make you question everything. Number 2 is the car that makes collectors go bankrupt trying to buy one. The 1970 Dodge Challenger RT 426 Hemi. And when I tell you how rare this thing is, you'll understand why. 13.10 seconds, but here's the shocking truth. Only 287 were ever made. Out of 13,688 Challenger RTs, only 287 got the Hemi. You're more likely to win the lottery. And here's what's going to make Plymouth fans mad. This tied with the number 1 car for quarter-mile time. So why isn't it number 1? because the 0 to 60 time was slightly slower, and that's it. This was Dodge's ultimate weapon. The Hemi was the engine that everyone feared, the engine that made grown men weep, the engine that defined power. But there's one car that beat it to number one, and it's going to shock you because it's the same engine, same time, but there's one difference that changes everything. Number one, the king of the muscle car era, the 1970 Plymouth Hemi Cuda. And I'm about to tell you why this car is worth more than most people's houses. 13.10 seconds, identical to the Challenger, but here's why it wins. It hits 60 miles per hour faster. That fraction of a second makes it the ultimate muscle car. But here's what makes this car legendary. Only 652 were ever built. That's it. There are more Ferraris on the road than Hemi Cudas. This wasn't just a car, it was a statement. Plymouth was saying, we don't care about fuel economy, we don't care about emissions, we care about one thing, making you wet your pants when you hit the gas. And here's the insane part that collectors don't want you to know. These cars are selling for millions now, but in 1970, they were sitting on dealer lots because people thought they were too extreme. Dealers couldn't give them away. The Hemi Cuda represents the end of an era, the last time American manufacturers said screw everything else. Let's build something insane. After 1970, the government stepped in, insurance companies cracked down, and the party was over forever. But wait, before you start typing in the comments, I need to address the elephant in the room that's going to make some of you furious. Here's my hot take that's going to ruffle feathers. These 1970 muscle cars would get destroyed by a modern Honda Civic Type R around a racetrack. There, I said it, but you know what? I don't care, and here's why. These cars weren't built for lap times. They were built for soul. They were built when men were men and cars had personality. Every single one of these machines has more character in its exhaust note than most modern supercars have in their entire existence. And here's what really gets me fired up. We will never see anything like this again. Ever. The government, the lawyers, the insurance companies, they've made sure that this level of raw, unfiltered insanity will never roll off a production line again. So here's what I want you to do. If you ever get the chance to drive one of these legends, do it. Don't worry about the value. Don't worry about the miles. Don't worry about anything except experiencing what it felt like when America built cars with balls. I'll never forget the first time I drove a real Hemi Cuda. The owner let me take it around the block, and when I hit the gas, I literally got emotional. This wasn't just transportation. This was art. This was passion. This was everything that made America great. And to all the Tesla fanboys in the comments saying, but ma 0 to 60 times, you're missing the point. These cars weren't about numbers on a spec sheet. They were about the experience, the sound, the feeling of controlling barely contained violence. If this video gave you chills, if it made you want to go find one of these beasts, if it made you appreciate what we've lost, smash that like button, subscribe for more automotive truth bombs, and tell me in the comments which one of these legends you would choose. And stick around because next week, I'm revealing the biggest lies that car manufacturers told about horsepower in the muscle car era. And some of these numbers will make you question everything you thought you knew. Plus, I'm going to show you how to spot a real muscle car from a fake one because there are some scumbags out there trying to pass off clones as the real deal. And I'm going to teach you how to avoid getting ripped off. Oh, and one more thing, I'm curious. What's the fastest you've ever gone in a classic muscle car? Drop your stories in the comments because I read every single one, and the best story gets featured in next week's video. Remember, we're not just car enthusiasts, we're the guardians of automotive history. Every time we share these stories, every time we keep these legends alive in our hearts, we're fighting against a world that wants to forget what real cars were like. So until next time, keep the rubber burning, keep the engines roaring, and never let anyone
tell you that the golden age of American muscle is dead. Because as long as we remember, as long as we care, these legends will live forever.